I always say that marketing and growing your business is just a series of experiments. And the more experiments you run, the more you find where that next golden nugget's going to be.
Welcome to Honest E-commerce, where we are dedicated to cutting through the BS and finding actionable advice for online store owners.
I'm your host, Chase Clymer.
And I'm your host, Annette Grant.
And we believe running an online business does not have to be complicated or a guessing game.
If you are struggling to scaling your sales, Electric Eye is here to help. To apply to work with us, visit electriceye.io/connect to learn more.
And let's get on with the show. All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Honest E-commerce. I am your host, Chase Clymer, and today we have a very special guest who's going to help answer a question that I bet a lot of developers and probably agencies get, but it's a question that comes from you, the store owner. So it's going to be a good conversation that we have today. So I have the pleasure of welcoming Joe from SpeedBoostr to the show. Joe is the founder of SpeedBoostr. They're a Shopify optimization and development agency. But the way we met is from a really funny story. So, like I said, the question that we always get when we are kind of signing off on projects is about 2 weeks after the project, you'll get an email from your client and it says, something, my Google PageSpeed number. How often have you got that, Joe?
Often enough to where, we wrote a bunch of content around it and FAQs, and it's just kind of an ongoing internal joke.
Yeah, and I've wrote some content about it, and now we're gonna have a podcast about it, so I'm super excited.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah, let's take it back a little bit. Let's talk about your history and how you kind of came to be at SpeedBoostr.
Cool. Yeah. Hey, everybody, nice to meet you. I'm Joe from SpeedBoostr. We focus on Shopify optimization and automation and just development, custom apps, features, stuff like that. But it came to fruition because I've been a web developer since around 2011, and focusing on Shopify the last few years, and performance just kept coming up more and more. So as soon as I found that, and I started with Google PageSpeed Insights and really just tried to master each of these points. Kind of went down that route and just found, it's kind of an idea to start a business based around it, essentially kind of like a productized service. And I also had a burning desire to share a lot of the knowledge I've gained over the years. So a big part of our SpeedBoostr is the blog as well.
Absolutely, yeah. Content is king for any business, be it like an e-commerce business or for like an agency like we have.
Yeah, I recommend it for any business, e-commerce as well, because it just kind of helps you sharpen your own knowledge and organize your thoughts, when you're trying to teach others and put them on paper.
Absolutely. So let's kind of get into the first question and the reason we met, which is this Google PageSpeed thing. So I guess if we could boil it down to a specific question the question I like to pose is, does Google PageSpeed matter? Is that score relevant?
Yeah, well, I guess debatable. I mean, I've done case studies to where I would say that it doesn't really matter in the big picture. And the reason I say that is because you obviously want a faster site. Everybody does. But I've come across issues where we'll clear some warnings or make a site faster, and then the score actually drops. So that was kind of a big turning point to me, to where I wasn't really trusting the tool as much anymore.
Yeah, and the other one out there is Pingdom. That's the other report people like to bring up too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and all these tools are great. Through the course of my career, I've used Google PageSpeed Insights, Pingdom, GT Metrics, webpagetest.org. WebPageTest is a great one for just getting your raw metrics. But the tools like Pingdom, GT Metrics, PageSpeed Insights, they're good with certain applications, but they're also generalized tools. So that was the major pain point that our customers had, Shopify store owners, and that we had, trying to explain this and never being able to get a perfect score or even kind of fix a lot of the warnings. And so it kind of boils down to, you're dealing with a generalized tool versus a platform type of site, to where you have numerous third-party apps and templating and a lack of control on some of your server processes.
So I just want to highlight the key thing you said there, which is it's a generalized tool. So let me break that down a bit. What this tool is doing is it is comparing you to everything else it has in its database. So it's comparing your e-commerce store, which has a lot of functionality going on, and judging it with the same kind of questions that it's judging like a one-page brochure website that might be static HTML. So it's not looking into what makes your business unique as an e-commerce store. It's not looking into the attributes of an e-commerce store. Everyone's judged the same.
Yes, exactly, and it doesn't care about your revenue. So that's like the main thing that you want to keep in mind. A lot of times, even a bare bones site won't score high, and I guess specifically with Google PageSpeed Insights, like I wrote an in-depth guide, Truth About Google PSI for Shopify. On our site, 4,000 or 5,000 words. It's got a lot of details and a lot of examples in like the case study I mentioned before. And through the course of writing that, I did a lot of other research. So I tested I tested Amazon. They didn't score well. I tested the own tool, and it didn't score well. So I guess what I've been trying to do on that is just say, just to show that it's not the only thing that you should be focused on, like doing real optimizations that are going to move your site ahead. Those are great, make your site faster, but also don't be obsessed about speed to the point to where you start thinking about uninstalling apps that are helping your business make money.
Yeah, I just want to point out that out of the box, the last time I checked this, just a basic Shopify store, it only scores an 80 on mobile and a 90 on desktop. And I've also ran it before, and it came up with a 76 and a 79 for mobile versus desktop as well. So thinking about that, it's like out of the box, the Shopify platform isn't, getting you an A because there are things that are going on in the background that like won't allow that to happen. And Google isn't taking that into consideration.
Yeah, well, a lot of times you might not want an A either. One of the ones that comes up, we get a lot of, we've optimized hundreds of sites, Shopify sites over the course of the last almost 2 years. But really the last year is when we kind of got a lot of traction and started doing a lot more interaction with clients and stuff. But over the course of, the hundreds of sites that we've optimized and sites that have reached out to us, we'll get call outs on that. Like, oh, can you fix this specific warning? Without going like boring on the technical details too much, just a quick summary on that is like the critical rendering path. That's like a warning that a lot of people just like, they'll see it in Google PageSpeed Insights and want it to be fixed. But with all of these, I've dove in super deep and I've tried to fix that, and I have cleared that warning before. It's a lot of work and it's maintenance heavy. You'd probably want an automated solution to try to figure it out. Because you have to regenerate CSS for every template anytime there's a change. But what I also found is I did it for a few sites, and sometimes you run into problems where you'll have the layout breaks, or because a third-party app is expecting some code to load in the header when it's not on one page or not the other. So you can cause like just little layout glitches and stuff like that. And between the cost of implementing plus the cost of maintenance, plus the potential layout breaks either in the present or in the future, it's one that I, just generally don't recommend investing into trying to solve. But, it is technically a best practice, and that's why it's in that tool. But for a Shopify site, I don't think that it makes sense to really stress on that when it could potentially cause problems because of a conflict with a third-party app.
Yeah. And, that's the thing. Best practices are just best practices. They need to make sense for your business.
Yeah, that's 100%. And all these tools, like we built our own tool, the Shopify Analyzer, to kind of solve the problem of, there wasn't a tool specifically for Shopify sites. And, some of the other warnings you'll see in other tools, like leverage browsing caching is another one that you're just not going to fix because those are related to third-party apps and they have a reason for setting their cache policies. But, So you're never gonna clear that warning error or whatever. So and we built this Shopify Analyzer to say, okay, here is like what we think are the most important optimization points that you should do, and if you clear all those, then you're gonna score a good grade. And there might be some micro optimizations, like the critical CSS rendering or something like that might just inch it forward a bit, but is also, like I said, it's got its drawbacks. So we kind of focus on that and just try to say, hey, like optimize what best you can, but don't like go super hardcore obsessive on it.
Absolutely. So let's kind of talk about what you should be doing. I got a Shopify store. I'm a store owner. What optimizations should I be doing? Should I be considering? How can I make my site faster?
Yeah. I always start with the low-hanging fruit, which is image optimization, and you can use an app for that to automate most of it. Shopify doesn't allow, their API doesn't allow connection to all the images on your site. So, for example, if you upload into your theme, the customized theme section, you're going to have to manually optimize that. But just image optimization is pretty easy that I think a non-technical person can usually handle. And, we have a guide on that on our blog. But I think, I could share a few blog posts in the show notes or something with our philosophy as we're transparent. So we have a complete guide to Shopify optimization that is basically pulled straight from our internal checklist that someone can go through each step, and same with the image optimization. So this stuff's available for free. And then our services are, as a business owner, you don't usually want to be wasting time trying to optimize your site. You might as well just pay someone to do it and focus on your own strengths. But that being said, a couple, quick ones. The image optimization, that's going to be key. Apps tend to be the major bottleneck that we see. So, uninstalling apps are fun, and they make you, they add engagement. You can make money off them. But what I have seen a lot is that people just go overboard, and you might have 20 or 30 apps going, and sometimes you can forget that some of them aren't even doing anything for you, or that they're not, driving a good ROI. Like a wish list app is a good example that I tested at one point that I was using on a site. And it seems like a nice feature. Amazon's got it. They're the e-commerce king, so it must be good, right? But then through analyzing the store, I just found out that people actually weren't using it. And, I'm also kind of the belief that each page should have a single goal. So if you're not getting ads to cart, but you're getting wish list ads, then that might detract your conversions. So on that one in particular, it wasn't a good ROI. All it was doing was contributing to a slower load speed. So that's just an example of how you want to track the metrics in your apps and make sure you're using them, and then, unload them if you're not. So that's number two, analyze your apps. And then along with that, a lot of times when you remove an app in your apps section, if it added theme code, like a script in your theme.liquid file, for example, I would probably say most times, at least a lot of the times, that app code is not going to get automatically removed. So you want to pay attention to that. And again, you could do that with like any analysis tool to see what files are loading. Our analyzer has it. The Shopify Analyzer has it to where you can see all the resources that are loading on your page, and then you cross-reference that with your apps. So if I see, app ABC .js script is loading in this tool, but I remember uninstalling that app a couple weeks ago, that means that it's still loading in your theme file. So you need to remove that. I guess those are the low hanging fruit, the image optimization and just making sure your apps are in check. And then I guess like the third point that someone could do like just today that's easy is use a single hero image on your homepage instead of a slider, because sliders they look cool, they're fancy, but they also that critical space is above the fold. So anything that you're loading there needs to load first. That's going to give like the best first impression. So if you have, three, and those images are big typically. So if you have like 3 to 5 large images loading right there, you're also having to load the plugin, which is typically going to require jQuery, which is also a library that needs to be loaded in the head as well. So you could do that, or you can just have a single image that kind of welcomes people to your site and gives them the first impression that you want to give them. There's also case studies that show that people don't actually interact with sliders. So again, it kind of comes back to creating a plan to see what people are actually interacting with and if those elements are useful. So to summarize, 3 main points you could do there: image optimization, analyze your app usage and remove what you don't need, and then remove your sliders and try a hero image. And A/B test it if you want to. If you think your sliders are doing great, then consider doing an A/B test with your theme and just to validate, because the data will always tell the truth.
I can't agree more with what you just said there. So I'll walk through it from my perspective. So on the first one, the seeing which files are big on your Shopify page, this is actually somewhere where Google PageSpeed can help. It tells you how big these images files are actually on your homepage load. That's a way you could use it.
Yeah. It's good for clues. I mean, you can get some clues, so it is a good tool. And I always emphasize that. I'm not bashing the tool in my communications about it.
Oh, I am. I absolutely am.
Like, it has its place, but just for Shopify specifically, that's our niche. It's just not a good tool for that.
So with all right, so let's talk about these images real fast. And I know a number is like there's some wiggle room with this, but do you have any best practices when it comes to the sizing of images for certain applications on a store?
No, I mean, ideally, if you can get all your images under 100 kilobytes each, like at the maximum size, that's great. If you have one big hero image that's 150 or 200, that's fine. I usually don't think you need to have anything over 200 kilobytes. And then, as far as best practices, it's just like making sure they're compressed. That's the main point of image optimization, because you won't lose resolution, and all you're doing is stripping out, the metadata. And image compression does some algorithms to, prevent the amount of colors being loaded. Some super technical stuff, but as long as the images are compressed, and then you're not loading like a 4,000 pixel image where on a mobile screen, a mobile screen's typically going to be around 400 pixels or so, depending on the device. So, without bogging it down with details, we have information on that as well, but you can kind of look up scaling server images. So you can just use some code to load a specific image size for different screen sets. So that's a little bit more technical, but on the basic level, as the store owner that just wants a quick fix, compressing the images, and then making sure the image size isn't the dimensions aren't just huge, like 1,500 pixels max for any screen, and I would say probably around 600 to 700 pixels for a mobile screen.
So we're on the same page there. So the numbers I used to throw out would be like, if it's a hero image, 300 kilobytes max, anything else 150, but you're even going lower.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to depend on how the image is, how detailed it is as well. So that's why I say, like, because you want to have an image that portrays exactly what you're looking for. So like, I wouldn't set like hard numbers. I would say just as long as they're mostly optimized, it's going to be in that range.
Yeah.
And then another key point is, when you use a tool, you might see an image that's like a megabyte or more, like, wow, how's it that big? And then you look and it's a photographic image that is saved as a .png. So that's the third point of image optimization, is making sure you're using the right file types. PNG is great for kind of graphics or things that need transparency. But if it's a photograph, then it should be JPEG, because otherwise you could make an image 4 to 5 times larger with the exact same quality.
Yeah, the only thing I want to say on image optimization on top of all that is just make it as small as it can be without sacrificing the quality. It's going to get a little less sharp, I guess, is the word I want to use. But I mean, if it's getting real bad and real ugly, you also need to know that the purpose of this image is to sell your product or to improve your brand. So if you're trying to hit a number, the number's arbitrary, like you still need the picture to look good.
Yeah. I'll agree with that. And like for me, I use two tools to compress images. One is CrushPix. That's a Shopify app that does most of them site-wide. And then I use tinypng.com. It does JPEGs as well. But with both of those, with their standard settings, I find that there's not a loss of resolution. So I'm happy with that. Like you can, that's called lossless resolution. You can do lossy, which you crank up you drop the file size even more, but then it starts to get blurry. I don't like that for an e-commerce site, especially when you're trying to show premium products. So with either of those tools that I mentioned, you should be fine as far as resolution goes.
Absolutely. And then moving on to your next point, which was the apps. I'm not going to say who, but actually we have two of them now. We've worked with some sites and we're auditing them and helping them with some redesigns and some other optimizations. And they had over 50 apps installed.
Woo!
and to explain it in layman's terms, that's 50 JavaScript calls plus whatever else is in the theme every time a page loads.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something to keep in mind. And then, with what you said, I hadn't thought about it that clearly. With it doesn't uninstall that code. So you're going around trying to get rid of all that stuff. So I like to think the best rule of thumb is, do you really, really need it?
Mm-hmm.
Like apps are not worth it because of what they're going to do to your optimization and your performance. Like people are testing them all the time. I think that's a bad way to do it. I think it's like ask around, get the right one, and use it. And I also see sometimes people are using like 3 apps where one app could do all 3 things. It's like, just pick one.
Yeah, that's one. If an app feature could be hard coded into your theme,
oh yeah,
that's typically a better way to go. Just for example, like I saw an app that shows it'll load a secure badge on your product page. See, to me, that's something that's nice. It's a quick solution. So, someone might just want to download that, but for an optimization point of view, you just want to put that in your Shopify theme, because then it's loaded from Shopify's from your same servers, from Shopify CDN, which is going to be fast and deliver it from anywhere, rather than using a third-party app that you're going to have to keep track of, that's going to load its own resources, and that is probably not going to be serving it as fast as if it was on your Shopify server.
Yeah. Some other examples I see of apps that are redundant are apps for making forms on your website, like contact forms.
Mm-hmm.
You can hard code that. Like free shipping bars at the top. That's so easy to hard code into a theme. I've seen some tutorials. You could do that thing yourself, even if you're non-technical. And another is like pop-ups for like emails and stuff. Like all 3 of those are super easy to hard code in. And then even some of the more advanced apps can be hard-coded in its features.
Yeah, a lot of it can. So, I mean, it kind of comes down to a balance of, what the budget is, if it's worth it for that specific scenario. But if like max performance is the ultimate goal, you definitely want to try to hard code as much as you can.
Absolutely. So just with the conversation topic of optimization and performance, is there anything that we missed on that you think you want to share?
We could go on forever just about this, one kind of optimization and everything. I think those are like the low hanging fruit.
Yeah.
And not to bore the audience with too many deep dives into it. But like I think just using tools every once in a while, kind of just to do a checkup on your site, at least once a quarter. Just using any of the analysis tools, and just to make sure your site's looking in good health. And again, it's not like with the Google PageSpeed Insights. It's not about the score. It's more about just looking for things that stand out, and just making sure that you don't have any big wastes. Like one time I put a case study in the blog on this one, and so it pops into mind. But we found a site that had there were over 1,500 extra server requests loading on collection pages.
Why?
And so, I guess I should make a chart, an infographic or something that says, hey, here's like the average amount, what you should expect. here's kind of the low end, here's the high end. I think I'll do something like that. But like for now, like you might like 100 requests on that page would be good. 150 would be like a little higher. Anything higher than 200 total would be like, I don't know, something could be optimized there. But this one had like, about 1,700 or so. And we found it was from an app, which a lot of times an app analysis will uncover stuff like that. So I guess it's just like checking in to make sure that there aren't any big bottlenecks like that, and any of those tools are, and then that's why we exist too. SpeedBoostr, we do a free analysis and see if anything like this going on. So if anyone doesn't want to dive into technical details, like we do that for free on the initial consult. So no problems there, but just being aware of things and kind of learning at least a little bit about optimization and what you should be looking for as a store owner, I think those would help.
Awesome.
Support for our podcast comes from our friends at Simpler, a new way to staff 24/7 sales and customer service on your e-commerce store. It works with your existing email and chat platforms, so setup is quick and easy.
Simpler's network of on-demand, US-based Simpler specialists are standing by to answer your customers' most common questions. Set it up for free today and then turn it on or off depending on your customer volume. You only pay $2.25 for every resolution. No hidden fees, contracts, or minimums.
Close more sales with Simpler by staffing your email and live chat around the clock with Simpler specialists.
Start your free 7-day trial at simpler.ai/honest. That's simpler.ai/honest. So thanks for that. Now we're going to switch gears to one of my favorite topics in the world, automation.
Ooh, yeah. Oh, man, me too.
I mean, it's a long-running joke that I'm trying to replace myself with a robot within the business.
Hey, man, that's a good goal for any entrepreneur.
I've actually named our Zapier robot. His name's Rob Halford.
Oh, nice.
So if anyone gets where that's from, you get $1 from me, I guess.
I will not get $1. I don't know.
It has to do with our agency name too. So those are all the clues. And I hope someone emails me about this when this episode comes out. So let's get into automation though. So
yeah,
I'm sure like the number one low hanging fruit there is email automation, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure.
So that is one of my favorite topics. And anytime I see someone using a standard, just you push a button and you blast, you know what I mean? Whenever I see that, I'm like, no, you're leaving so much money on the table.
Mm-hmm.
And then I see some people that are like kind of in the junior leagues. There's a few that are like getting into it. I'm not going to name any names, but then there's like the big leagues of email automation, and those are the ones that I'm always pushing. So I guess, what are some of your favorite tactics with email that aren't like the out of the box ones?
To start off with automation in general too, the reason why I love it as well. We connect on this. So I've just been multiple business owner and just always working on so many projects, and I'm just like, man, I need to like free up some more time. So automation had become a passion of mine. And with being in e-commerce for a few years now, I've just seen pay-per-click prices rise and rise more and more. So I'm always trying to find automated marketing tactics, because those can be unloaded, unleashed, and they're making money on autopilot. And that's kind of the other half of SpeedBoostr. We optimize, and then I guess as an extension of me being obsessed with automation, we try to do a lot of that as well. And we build solutions, and we promote marketing, automation, stuff like that as well. So yeah, for email, I love automated flows. Like Klaviyo became my favorite email service provider this year. So I've been using them. I set up with Klaviyo automated emails on a store doing about $10K a month. And within a month, the email was contributing over $1,000 to revenue, and mostly on autopilot as well. So, your standards are your abandoned carts, I like doing a welcome sequence to where you offer kind of would you call your standard discount, like a 10%. And what that does is that gives them a reason to join your sequence. Now they're in, okay, great. And then you can follow up with automated emails to introduce them to your brand, show different products. And there's just a million ways to segment with Klaviyo in particular. That's why I like it.
Yep.
And I also use ConvertKit. I don't like ConvertKit for an e-commerce store, but I like it for like a B2B, like for SpeedBoostr. I use ConvertKit.
Mm-hmm.
You're quite experienced in email marketing, so you're probably the pro on these. But I've just found it a good just to get some basic automation set up is going to drive a positive ROI. And that's my goal with any marketing campaign on automation is I'm not really concerned about what it costs, but is it going to drive a positive ROI without any input? Then it's 100% yes.
Yeah, I don't know why I was being so secretive before. Maybe the Chipotle is making me feel funny. But no, yeah, Klaviyo is number one that I like. I'm not a big fan of Convertio because it's like Klaviyo Junior, and I'm not a big fan of MailChimp because it's just not even in the same realm of possibilities of what Klaviyo can do.
Yeah, I actually switched from MailChimp, and once I got into yeah, you're right. It is pronounced Klaviyo. I don't know.
No, I don't know if it's right or not. I'm going to the conference.
No, it is. I always say Klaviyo. I learned about it while I was in Colombia, so everything's in Spanish. So I just pronounce it as it is in Spanish. So, but then I talked with Klaviyo and I watched some of their videos, and I'm like, oh, it is Klaviyo. But they said they don't care. I can pronounce it however.
No, yeah, they don't care. They know that they've got the worst name ever, but they've got a great product.
They have an amazing product, and that's why I'm so stoked on them, just because they're just ahead of anything else I'd used before, and I saw the results instantly.
Yeah, so I'm trying to think of some of the out of the box, like outside of the box. Is that how you say? I don't know. So we're Klaviyo experts at some level. We keep going up in their little expert column thing, but so we always try to come up with fun flows for our clients, and the birthday flow is like the easiest one to get set up.
Yeah,
and its open rate is insane.
Nice. Yeah, I haven't personally experimented too much with the birthday flow yet, but I can see that.
Yeah, that one's really fun. I'm trying to think of some more.
Yeah, you know what I like that I've been experimenting with is kind of two tactics. Like if someone buys one product from a certain collection, and you have another collection that matches that product, or if it is a complementary item, like maybe like depending on how often you like to communicate, maybe a month or two later, you can say, hey, I know you like that. If you're digging the product, get the matching top or the matching, accessory or whatever. Check these out here. That one's another one that can be on autopilot, and it's statistically gonna drive you sales because some of the people are going to be interested in that other product. So I like that one. And then another automation one that I use, that if you're like like a clothing brand or something, or if you like have a product to where you're constantly releasing new designs, if someone bought something from that collection, then you can send an automated email. You can see exactly like your average repurchase time from a customer to use data to make that, but you could just kind of ballpark it as like a few weeks and have an automated email and say, hey, we got some new designs up on the site, here they are, and go like filter by new arrivals. For someone that's like, if you have a t-shirt company, if someone likes your t-shirts and let me check out the new ones, and you might need to grab a new t-shirt. So and those are free, essentially free marketing, because you're just you set up an automated flow.
That made me remember a few more specific ones for clients that we had. So one was for clients that offer, we have one client that offers a few subscription products for very specific products. And if you just buy one of them, it'll email you when he thinks it's going to be out and be like, hey, do you want to subscribe to the subscription so you don't...
Yes. Nice one.
Yeah. And then we have another client that has a product that isn't really supposed to be perishable, but it's like, if you're using it the right way, it kind of gets raggedy and you're probably going to want a new one, and the price point isn't huge. So he times that out to like when people usually like would actually want a new one. And he's like, hey, like, we've had some customers tell us that they want, that they've used this so much and they love it so much, they just want another one. So then, having that touch point too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you can dream it, you can build it. And that's the fun thing about those platforms.
Yeah, for sure. Those are great.
So outside of email, is there anything else that you guys have been dabbling in with automation?
Oh yeah, man, I got a bunch here. So just kind of like top of my head, starting an affiliate program is great, because you'll get influencers, you get people talking about your brand, trying to sell your product, and you'll get the backlinks. So it's kind of like a back end SEO tactic as well. So I like that. So it's pretty much automated once you set it up. A couple other things that I automated for clients and then businesses, e-commerce business I run, is like fulfillment. So like right now, Amazon fulfillment is the biggest one. You can connect it to Shopify, automatically fulfill your orders there. I'm really curious to see how Shopify's new fulfillment network that they announced this summer is going to play out. I haven't personally used it yet, but if they can compete with Amazon on like delivery and price, I think it'll be huge because you can do your own custom branding. So that's not fulfillment is just taken. You don't have to deal with it as an owner. You ship all your inventory, it's done. I also like doing like a social media automated tactic that I use and that a lot of people might not be aware of is use the tool called If This Then That.
I do actually.
Yeah. So I always like browse there to find IFTTT.com is what it is. So they're just little automated scripts that you can do. So the one I like to use on that, I think for most e-commerce brands, kind of product focused, Instagram is going to be the primary marketing channel. So as like as an efficient social media strategy, if you're big, you can have someone managing every single platform. But what I always recommend and implement for smaller brands or even mid-sized brands is if you have a social media manager posting content every day on Instagram or whatever your main channel is, you can use the IFT script to automatically, you can share on Facebook and it'll share the image and that's good from Instagram. But then you can use IF to also share that on Twitter automatically, but with a native image. Because if you try to just share it on Twitter, it only shows a link. So you can have it post the image. So now your Twitter's covered. You can have it automatically share in Pinterest and pin it to certain boards depending on what hashtags you use. So that's another cool one. And I've seen Pinterest work really well for some brands and just not work at all for others. So if you are a brand where you think Pinterest would work, something like that is pretty nice because you can just automatically be posting a lot of content over there. So that's like just a way to spread your social media postings without having to hire or having to spend time doing it.
I love that tactic.
So, and I think another one that I really like for automation, it's email related, but I use it through a reviews app. So just automatically sending a review request to customers and then including a shareable discount code for the people that leave like a good review. The way I like that as the automation is you're getting your reviews and you're getting, the negative reviews are a good opportunity for feedback. So you're automated like your feedback and your reviews, and then you're kind of using it. You can use it as a back-end automated marketing channel by including like that shareable discount code. So I'm always trying to find fun ways to engage with people on email. So it's kind of like finding the right wording to fit the brand's identity to be like, hey, thanks for that 5-star review. I'm glad you love our product. If you have any friends that, or if you want to get anything else, here's a code for X% off. But if you want to share with a friend, feel free. We're all about the building the community, something like that. So, just again, statistically, just by throwing it out there, you're going to get some people that are sharing it, and then you're going to acquire new customers like that. So, kind of becomes an automated customer acquisition strategy.
Awesome. I fully recommend that one as well.
Yeah. And then the last one that pops in my mind is automated retargeting. There's a bunch of apps out there. The one that I used is Shoelace. They kind of got pretty expensive recently, so I don't know if they're going to work for every brand, but there's a handful of apps that you can look in the Shopify App Store. But you can do retargeting yourself, but if you don't feel like learning how to do that, then you just install an app and they set it up, and retargeting converts quite well, better than cold ads. And if you use an app, it's essentially 100% autopilot. So you just install it and then you get free sales.
Shoelace builds a very quality funnel for people that are in, I would say it's for people that they have sales already and they're trying to get into that retargeting element, but they don't have the ability to hire like a dedicated person. I think Shoelace works very well for them.
Yeah. And I would say $5,000 monthly revenue and higher is when it would probably make sense for an app like that to make sure it's ROI.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, hey, Joe, I cannot thank you enough for coming on the show and sharing all this with the audience. Is there anything else that you want to leave or say before you go?
Not too much. I just, it's good talking. I always love talking with fellow Shopify, entrepreneurs and
nerds,
people in the agency. And I guess if I could leave one piece of advice just on how I've grown through my e-commerce business and through Speed Boostr is listening to podcasts, talking to other people. I got a couple ideas from you on this call as well. So I think it's always good to be finding people and talking to people and going to meetups and stuff like that, and just experimenting. I always say that marketing and growing your business is just a series of experiments. And the more experiments you run, the more you find where that next golden nugget's going to be.
I love that. So where can people get a hold of you? Where can they talk to you? Where can they find out about that cool analyzer tool?
Yeah, so speedboostr.com. That's with no E at the end. So speedboostr.com. That's our website. The analyzer's on there. You just click the Shopify Analyzer. We build custom apps and solutions. I also am going to be submitting our first Shopify app to the store probably tomorrow. I'm just doing some final testing, and it automates some order processes. So if you fulfill your products using Amazon, that's the key target for that. But I don't have a link for that, so I don't want to go into the details too much, but if you come to our site, I'll have it up there soon enough. But essentially, we're just trying to build solutions to automate processes. So if anyone needs their website optimized or wants to see if their website is optimized or is looking for any automated solutions, that's what we're here for. And that's what we're trying to help Shopify store owners save time and save money.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Cool, man. Thank you.
We can't thank our guests enough for coming on the show and sharing the truth. Links and more will be available in the show notes. If you found any actionable advice in this podcast that you'd like to apply to your business, please reach out at electriceye.io/connect.
Please make sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your podcast app of choice.